Mickey, I kind of agree with Coach Allen's statement. Said, look, I told the team we've got to do a better job of executing our jobs. If we're not executing our jobs, we've got to find someone else to execute those jobs. Is that in the immediate future, or that is it next season? Where does that come about? Because that's a broad statement. If we're not executing our jobs, we've got to find someone else to execute those jobs. And when you hear that statement, it's like, well, you don't have too many options because of the limited roster spots.
Yeah, I think, look, first of all, I wasn't there when he said that, but I understand it. Look, we're all accountable for the tasks and the jobs that we have to do. And so if you can't do them or you're not doing them, then you better change in a hurry, or somebody else will end up doing that job. But on the other side of that equation is, look, we're going through some growing pains here. We've had a lot of changes on offense and over the last 2 years. We've got a new quarterback in the building. We've got young kickers. So we're going to have some growing pains. The good news for us is that we've got a very good defense who's played very well this season, and we can rely on that. Now, in the first half of that game, it wasn't their best half, but they played really good football in the second half. So we're going to have to weather some of these growing pains, and yet at the same time, we've got to make sure we're executing and we're doing our jobs to the best of our ability, attention to detail. And I felt like, look, we've done that a lot, and yet I felt like in this game, and I know Coach Allen felt like there was some things that we didn't detail correctly, and so we got to get that fixed. And that's players, coaches, the entire organization. So that's what happens when you lose games. You got to be accountable for that and try to figure out quickly what's keeping you from winning. The good news is, look, we didn't lose any ground in our division, so it's still out there in front of us.
Now, Mickey, how do you handle, though? I guess it does matter. You always say when you play an opponent, who's available, who's not. I don't know the availability of Trevor Lawrence come Thursday night, but I look at all the injuries we're dealing with on the offensive line. And how do you handle that? Do you just bring in guys off the street or maybe somebody who might be familiar with the offense? As far as depth, you look at like the depth, the swing tackle we had, Landon Young, the injuries he's dealing with. Then all of a sudden we got to put Cesar Ruiz at tackle. And then when you think about it, Ryan Ramczyk, I don't know, the concussion protocol. I mean, you get a concussion on Sunday, how you could be ready on Thursday. You can go all across the line. But that's what I'm concerned with on Thursday night, going against Jacksonville. Who in the hell's playing for us to block and establish that offensive line?
Every team is dealing with and deals with injuries. What makes it particularly difficult, you just alluded to it, when you have a lot of injuries at one position group, that can be really difficult because it's not, for example, if it's the offensive line, you've got five players in there that you have to work cohesively. And if one changes, look, you can deal with that. 2 makes it a lot more difficult to deal with, and 3 certainly makes it a lot more difficult to deal with. So we'll handle it. We've got guys in the building that can play, and we'll adjust accordingly based upon who's available.
Mickey, I know you're not coaching, but I am curious to the frustration level. It just feels like, and it's been talked about, just kind of some of the miscommunication, the routes, and these guys have been together not long, but they have been, since the spring. Is just how tough is that really through 6 weeks, and really not all 6 weeks, but in the 6th week is probably a better way to say it.
Well, it's always frustrating when you don't win. It's not as frustrating if you win the game anyway.
Right.
But I feel like, listen, I think offenses typically in the early part of the season are slow starting, right? Look at week 6. We're in week 6 already, and so you would think that would be catching up. But just this week we had, Kansas City scored 19 points. Minnesota scored 19 points. Cincinnati scored 17 points. San Francisco scored 17 points. Philadelphia scored 14 points. Buffalo scored 14 points. These are all really good offenses. And yet it's week 6, and it's not like they're ringing up a lot of points in week 6. So we're going through some of that slow start. It hadn't caught up to us yet. We haven't caught up to it, I should say. And so we're going through some growing pains. We've got to figure that out pretty quickly. I saw some really good things in this game. We had 430 yards of offense. We've got to learn how to finish and how to not have negative plays when we get into the scoring area. Obviously, we have to kick and make field goals. So, look, those are things that are correctable, and I believe we have the people that can correct that.
Now, Mickey, when I look at this one number, and this is something that I know post-Katrina, that we were always winning in the fourth quarter, and how you close out games. And that's one number, to me, it's more than 2-1. Like we've been outscored in the fourth quarter 20-47. So you know how games can come down to the last drive, or what do you do in the fourth quarter? How does Pete Carmichael or Coach Allen, how they address that, or as a team do you come together as far as outscoring your opponent to close out games in the fourth quarter?
It's you put yourself in those pressure situations enough time, and then you have success. You build confidence, so that you're expecting to be successful in those situations, and not just being hopeful to have success in those situations. Look, I remember back in 2008, we had 6 or 7 games that we had the lead or an opportunity to win in the fourth quarter and didn't close it out. And yet, man, we went through that. We went through those circumstances. We learned from it. And in 2009, man, we closed out those games. We learned how to finish teams off. That was one of the themes of the offseason after 2008 is, man, we've got to learn how to finish. We've got to finish. And it was a focus for us. And, we learned how to do that, and we did it. And so I think, it's similar to that. We've got to, we need to learn how to finish these games, particularly on offense, and that'll lead to victories, especially in the NFL when the margins are so close.
Now, Mickey, what about, when we've seen it in training camp, exploiting the middle of the field, not only with the wide receivers, but the tight end. The tight end position is not even in the top 4 targets or receptions. I mean, you look at like Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and you're looking at Michael Thomas, but I know Juwan Johnson's dealing with an injury. Taysom Hill was a big part of that. And I know Derek Carr knows how to utilize the tight end. I remember him with the Raiders and Waller. But it seems like the tight end, and I know we got Foster Moreau and all that, but the tight ends are not even in the top four as far as receptions. And I know the tight end is a short path, even though the rush is getting to you, that you can release and get the ball to him or utilizing the tight end more. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's a good point. And look, we are counting on Juwan Johnson to be that receiving tight end for us. He's a weapon, and he hasn't been available because he was hurt. And so we're going to need to get him back and give him opportunities. And again, with Foster, Foster's dealt with some things. With Foster and Jimmy, that's an area of the field and an area of our team that we can utilize. And we will. Again, this is all part of the growing pains that you deal with, and just like we didn't have Alvin the first 3 games, we've got to find ways to get all of these weapons integrated